their injuries. Tiana Carruthers was walking her daughter and friends to another friend's apartment when she was ambushed by Daniel. As stated before, she was shot in the left arm, right leg, left leg, and through her back, with a bullet lodged in her liver. She received numerous surgeries to mend her 2 broken thigh bones, a shattered upper arm bone, and damage to her liver. The bullet is still lodged in her liver today, and will remain there, as the surgery required to remove it was considered to be too life-threatening. Tiana was a hero that day. Not only did she sacrifice her body to shield the children she was with from the hail of bullets, but she was able to give the police an accurate description of the shooter, and even was able to identify the car he was driving. Later, Tiana was asked to identify Daniel in a lineup, which she was able to do.
2 years, 11 months, and 5 days. I've tried to hate you. I've tried to hate you. I can't seem to hate you. I've already tried numerous times. I've cried a billion tears of how my gears turn. I pause, replay, and relive every single moment. Your pain is contagious. Your rage is heinous. You spread it like a disease. My little girl, Kanaya, Dorje, Adriana, Joy, Tariana, and Selena. Their hearts were so pure, and now you've tainted them with your actions.
To say Abby Koff is lucky to be alive is a massive understatement. She was shot in the head by Daniel, causing a part of her skull to be blown away. When the police were first on the scene of the shooting at the Cracker Barrel, they didn't even notice that Abby was in the vehicle. It wasn't until she made a noise that the officer spotted her on the floorboard. It was later revealed that Barb Hawthorne pushed Abby down to the floor when she heard the bullets, in an attempt to save Abby's life. Not only did Barb try and save Abby's life, but she also remained coherent enough to tell investigators Abby's parents' names, as well as their contact information before dying from her wounds. Abby was loaded into an ambulance and on her way to the hospital when the officer said they didn't think she was going to make it. After arriving at the hospital, Abby flatlined.
They walked us up to this room in the ICU, and that's when I saw Abby for the first time. A couple hours later, she flatlined.
The doctor started performing life-saving CPR on her, which is something no parent should ever have to see. Abby's mom, Vicky, told the doctors to stop with the CPR. If it was her time to go, then they needed to let her go.
We told them to let her go. If it was meant to be, it was meant to be. At that point, we started to say our goodbyes.
In the meantime, it was already being reported on the news that Abby lost her life.
Unfortunately, the other female teenager, 14 years old, has passed away as well.
What the media didn't know was that little Abby was still fighting. At the hospital, her parents started saying their goodbyes. The nursing staff unhooked her from the ventilator and all of the other machines that were keeping her alive. Vicky was holding Abby's hand and put her head on Abby's chest, saying goodbye to her 14-year-old daughter. That is when Vicky heard the best noise she could have ever imagined. It was Abby's heartbeat. She was alive. Immediately, Vicky retrieved the doctors and nurses who were astounded that Abby was alive. They hooked her back up to the machines and pushed all sorts of buttons. She was now in a coma. But she was alive.
They unhooked her from the ventilator machine, and they started hauling stuff out of the room, and they put a blanket up almost to her neck. At that point, we started to say our goodbyes. And I had my head on her chest, and I told her that I loved her, and I heard something, and I told the nurse that I thought she had a heartbeat. And the nurse came over, and she checked her, and then at that point, the nurse said, "Holy " She was smacking buttons on the wall, and people were flying back in.
Abby stayed in a coma for many days, and she had many surgeries. The frontal right lobe of her brain was removed and a plate was put in its place. After waking up from the coma, she was moved to the Mary Free Bed Rehabilitation Center in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Abby had to learn how to do everyday normal tasks all over again. She had excruciating headaches and lost a lot of sensation on the left side of her body. Abby was at the rehabilitation hospital for months. She was transferred back to the hospital to have another surgery to replace the plate in her head due to an infection from the previous surgery. After this surgery, she was able to go home, but not long after she had to undergo yet another operation because of a skin infection that was related to her injuries. Abby doesn't really remember anything about the shooting, nor does she remember anything about her childhood. She also wishes that she could do cartwheels like she is told she used to enjoy doing, or ride a normal bike. Abby is back in high school and hopes to work with animals someday. Kalamazoo, Michigan is home to 3 different colleges. Western Michigan University is a large public university. Kalamazoo College is a private liberal arts college, and Kalamazoo Valley Community College is a 2-year community college. While Kalamazoo has its college-like atmosphere, the suburbs of the town are very family-oriented. In 2010, Kalamazoo had a population of over 74,000 people. It is known for the Kalamazoo Mall, which was created in 1959 and was the first outdoor mall in the United States. The original home of the Gibson Guitar Corporation was in Kalamazoo before the company gradually moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and Bozeman, Montana in the 1980s. At one point in time, Kalamazoo was known as the Paper City due to a large number of paper mills. When the forests in West Michigan started getting logged out, the mills were eventually shut down. The town as a whole has a higher crime rate than the national average in the United States, and it is especially higher than the inner-city neighborhoods, but much lower in the downtown and most of the southwest areas.
Kalamazoo, where it's at in western Michigan, is just about halfway between Chicago and Detroit. It's sort of a bigger town that still has a small town feel.
Kalamazoo City contains a lot of businesses, a lot of restaurants.
The attraction to Kalamazoo, Michigan is that it is a safe Midwestern town with those Midwestern values. The cost of living is good. You can buy a nice house, live in the country if you want, but you're close to the city. It's one of those ideal towns where parents dream about raising their families.
After Daniel was picked up by the police, he was taken in for an interview. Daniel's interview was rather odd. Sometimes he would answer questions, while other times he would plead the fifth.
Do you know how many people you killed tonight? I would like to just plead the fifth. Okay. What would you like to talk about in here? I really don't want to talk about anything.
The oddest statement of all, however, was when Daniel described to the detective why he did what he did. It was rather simple, actually. The devil made me do it. When asked to expound upon that, Daniel said that a devil had popped up on the Uber app on his cell phone and took over his entire mind and body. The devil was inside him, telling him when to kill. He went on to describe that the screen on his iPhone was switching from red to black, and when the screen was black, the devil took over him and would start killing. Daniel also claimed not to remember anything about the shooting. The only time he showed any emotion at all was when he stated that he had shot a child. Other than that one moment, Daniel was emotionless.
I know you've been searched, but just per protocol, we just have to search you again and all that, okay?
How have you been treated? I've been treated okay.
What would you like to do right now?
I'm not kind of just whatever you guys are going to do.
You seem like a pleasant person.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you being nice to me, too.
Well, good.
It's not our job to be rude.
No.
I mean, we're human,
We're
too.
human, just like you.
How much sleep have you had in the last 24 hours? I think I've been going for probably more than 24 hours. Just, and I accelerated out the West Main Hill, and it was like, and I made this corner, and I hit a car. A turn, squeal, and then it's like, turn to a complete stop. And then he just bailed out of the car. And I'm like, you got to your destination, sir. And then I just took off as fast as I could go. I reached in, I grabbed my Glock, and and I believe that I don't. The whole magazine there. I know I killed her. And I don't even... Why do you assume that you killed her?
Because how could you survive that many gunshots? The Glock jammed.
During that?
Doing that. And I cleared the jam to finish. And I walk up to this lady and ask her if she could spare $1 to make America great again. And she told me that she didn't have the dollar to spend. And I shot her. I remember
that I shot a small person in the head.
When you say small person, what do you mean?
I can turn a child. I'm not a killer, and this is what I know that I have killed.
Yeah, you understand that, you know that.
What's the connection between all these people? Is there any connection for you between any of these people?
No. If you guys only knew,
Okay.
it would blow your mind.
Is Uber UBER?
Mm-hmm.
You just recently been joined up with them.
Yeah. Am I okay to talk about what happened?
Yeah.
I know that you guys are going to have a hard time believing this, but it literally took over mind and body.
Uber? Yeah.
Yes. I really didn't even see what the symbol, I just tapped it. And then there was like a devil head that popped up. It was some sort of like horned head, like a cow head or something. And I pressed that button, and that's where all the problems went after that.
Daniel grew up in Greenfield, Indiana, and moved to Kalamazoo when he was in high school because his father started a job at the GM plant that was located there. Born on June 22, 1970, Daniel was 45 years old at the time of the shooting. Daniel graduated from Comstock High School in 1989 and later decided to take classes at the Kalamazoo Valley Community College. Daniel obtained an associate's degree in, shockingly, criminal justice. He had hopes and aspirations to be a police officer, but when he couldn't find a police officer position close to home, he decided to get involved in the insurance business. He was in his late 20s when he decided to change his career path. For as long as anyone could remember, Daniel always had a passion for cars and knew a lot about them. When he decided to get into the insurance business, his knowledge of auto body work helped him with his job. Starting in the late 90s, he worked for State Farm until 2001, when he decided to work for Progressive Insurance. He worked for Progressive until 2011. At the time of the shooting, Daniel was working as an insurance adjuster for the Michigan Appraisal Company located in Kentwood, Michigan. Daniel grew up in a much different home than a lot of the shooters we have covered. He was raised as an only child whose parents were very supportive. Daniel participated on the football, track, and wrestling teams and was even the co-captain of his football team. His parents never missed a game or match, and were always involved in Daniel's life. His dad even served as a scoutmaster for his Boy Scout group. Daniel was a good student, worked hard, and always seemed to have a good attitude. Daniel married his wife in 1995, and they went on to have 2 children, a boy and a girl. He appeared to be a good family man, and was always there for his family when he was needed. Daniel was quiet and seemed to avoid confrontation whenever possible. He was very calm and soft-spoken, and he enjoyed taking his German Shepherd to the dog park. In his spare time, he liked to shoot guns off outside his home for hours at a time. Some of his neighbors later said that Daniel would sometimes spend all day long shooting his guns. He also enjoyed going to different gun shows and gun ranges. As he grew older, his love for cars never changed. Some of his most prized possessions were his Hummer and Chevrolet Camaro. Daniel lived an ordinary life, with an ordinary family. Some former co-workers later said that he was quick to anger, and seemed to have an off side to him. But other than that, there was nothing obvious in his past that would indicate he would do anything like this, causing such a tragic event. He had what some would say a perfect life. A wife he loved very much, a son who was 15 years old at the time of the shooting, and a daughter who was 10. He had a solid job making around $50,000 a year. Finances were never a huge issue in his life or something he and his wife had to stress about. They lived life comfortably. On January 25, 2016, Daniel started working for the rideshare program called Uber. He decided to start giving rides to people while making some extra cash on the side. He was saving money to take his family to Disney World. He even passed the Uber background check. On the Monday after the shooting, Daniel was arraigned on 6 counts of murder, 2 counts of assault with the intent to commit murder, and 8 counts of using a firearm in the commission of a felony.